Hello, welcome to Learn to Draw an Owl. I actually just noticed that my first colored pencil drawing is back here, this owl. So I've done quite a few owls at this point and really like to draw them, and so I think we'll be able to simplify it enough where you can leave with a finished owl drawing in the next 15-20 minutes. So I'm going to turn the camera around and we'll get started. So grab some paper and some pencils if you haven't already. Oops, dropping pencils now. Alright, so thank you for watching. Drop a comment when you join the live so I know you're here, and let me know if you're drawing along or just checking it out. So I forgot one thing to grab. Grab that. Alright, so one trick that I like to do for freehanding things that I'm going to start off with showing you is taking, oh my gosh, my tripod keeps falling off the end of my desk. Okay, so one trick that I like to do is you've got your reference picture, and then take a ruler and just go across it in certain points. So like I'll take it across just underneath the eye, like at the pupil, maybe up here. And so like I just keep seeing these reference points that I can measure on the paper that I'm actually working on to know where everything goes. This is still can't see it that well. And so I did the horizontal one, so now I'll do some of the vertical ones. And this just gives me a good reference point. It's like if you've ever seen people do like a grid over something, with like the little squares where you like do square 1, square 2, and draw what's in each of those squares. It's just you're making your own grid. It's not like specific to anything. So I just like doing that just to like kind of give myself a reference point so I can see like where things line up. Okay. So we're gonna move over to our actual paper that I'm gonna draw on. Okay. Trying to fit everything into the screen is a bit ridiculous. Okay. So now when I start actually drawing, like I can see how far apart these points are, right? So I always like to start with the eye and go out. So I notice this line here. So that's where I would start, would be, and you just kind of follow these shapes. So I start with this line and then I'll start with that line that goes out. And I'm not doing like specific shapes or, you know, like these are the little feathers and I'm not doing that yet. So I'm just getting started with these basic lines here. So, and you can always erase and fix things as needed. And you just kind of follow these shapes. And I know that when you're getting started, you might do it 5 times and think this still isn't right, but practice, just keep practicing. And what you can also do too is take these lines that we drew on here and transfer them to the paper. So like I would draw and you would use a ruler, but like I'll draw these lines here and then I can still like get that reference point so that when I look at this, I know that the like this darker section up here, like I'll know that this darker section starts like right in the middle of those two lines and goes out. And so just being able to see those reference lines is super helpful. And like once again, like I'm not making it the specific shape. I'm just kind of getting the general idea in there. So those are like the big lines here. So then I would do, which, oh my gosh, I'll do the top of the head here and the outer outline there. So I know that the top of the head is about halfway of this darker section here. So I would just start there. And then you can trace your own line and you'll see that this just kind of curves right down there. And so that's what I'll do on here. I'll just curve it right down and take it down. Okay. So those are the first places to get started with the shape over the eye and the eye itself, and then the outer, the outside shape of the head. Then I would start looking at feather patterns. So next I noticed that there's this that curves around and down, and so I put that on there. I also noticed this larger white shape here, so I'll put that on there. And I noticed that there's this sort of shape here, and I'll put a line on there for that. And then of course the beak. So next I'll start working on those lines. And with these reference lines again, I notice where this curve starts in between here and the line that goes over the eye. So if I put this line in, I'll know that that curve should start right in the middle here. And I'll also notice that this space here isn't quite enough, so I would take this and pull it out a little bit so that I can get a larger area there. Okay, and this is all just the initial sketch. So if you have to erase and go back and do it a few times, that's fine. Okay, and so I just cut this picture in half. I like how cutting pictures in half looks for whatever reason. So that's what I did here. So there's the beak, and then like I said, this white shape here, I know that that's there. Okay, and I know that there are some darker feathers over here. And so I'm just kind of outlining those. I also know that there are a few darker spots up here. And these ones I'm just kind of eyeballing because they don't need to be perfect. Like not every owl is going to have the, precise pattern. And so now I'm just kind of putting in a few of those little spaces. Okay, so now I'm going to grab some colors. Actually, I'm going to grab an eraser first. And so now that you have your sketch down, what I'll do is I'll just start erasing some of these extra lines. So like I'll take out all of these sorts of lines here that are irrelevant for moving forward purposes anyways. And so the lines that I messed up, that I put in the wrong spot, I take those out. And I'm using a kneaded eraser so that it doesn't leave those little, like little particles, little eraser particles all over my paper. So it leaves it a little cleaner. And then also, so that the pencil, the colored pencil covers up this, I just lightly go over the whole thing to just kind of, like, you can still see the lines, but they're a little bit lighter. And then I have a few pencils here. So these are the colors I chose. Colors don't matter a ton. It's more about how you use them and the values. So making sure these dark parts are super dark and the white is super white, or not, maybe not super white, but bright. So for this too, I like to start with the eye. I mean, especially on a picture like this where it just stands out so much. So I'll start there as well. And there's always layers to it. So start with one color and then just start adding in layers of color. And you'll notice that the outer edges are a little darker. And so are like all these little corners. They're all darker too, especially at the top here. And then there's a little bit of lighter areas in the middle. And this is a short pencil, but it's still got quite a bit of life to it. Okay, and then so to make the eyeballs look more realistic, you'll notice that there's a reflection, and most eyes have a reflection. So I am using a blue color, and I'm just going to put that reflection in. Okay. And if you put that in first, you'll make sure you'll be able to capture it. Like, you can always make it a little darker later or break it up, but at least if you have a space dedicated to it right now that's light, it will work much easier for you later. And so now I'm just filling in this pupil here. And you can take it as many layers as you want. The more layers, the darker it becomes. And I'm also going to put some darker layers over. This would be like the shadow of the feathers. And you just look for the patterns. You just look and see what you can see. Like, you can see these darker areas. And so you just gradually build up. You take your time and you gradually build up. And so then we have this outer layer of the eye here, and I'll show you a trick for making these look more realistic too. And when you're doing this, if you need to move your paper so it's not always in the same direction, go for it. If you need to, put it upside down or sideways or any other direction, go for it. I cannot do that since I'm recording, but you guys are free to hold your paper however you wish and however makes it easier for you. Okay. And then I'll just take this, since I already know that this is also black, I will take this. Oof, my voice is getting interesting. I'll take this black up here. And now, before, when I just did like a, pretty straight square here, this is when I'll start adding in a little bit more texture for the feathers. So this is when I'll start, making so it's not a straight solid line. And these don't have to be perfect either. You just kind of go with what you see, how it feels. And then, since this is pretty much entirely black, I'll just fill it in. And you can add a little texture in here too. Okay. So the next thing I would do, besides getting a drink of water, would be to find the other darker spaces. So I'm just going to stick with this black pencil here and just keep going around and finding all of the little darker spaces. So like I'll do the beak next, and like you can see that there's a highlight on the beak too, so I won't fill in the entire beak, but I will do part of it. Okay. And then we have this curvature here of feathers. And this is where you want to make sure that your pencil is going in the direction of the feather. So it would look really weird if I was doing it like this. They need to go out like this because this is the direction of the feathers. And in doing it in the direction of the feathers, you are making it look more realistic and giving it more dimension and just that quality of like, oh yes, this is an owl. And so like on the back sections, the further back you go, then they do start going down like this because it's further away, and so they do the directions change. But when it's up here on the face, you want to make sure you're going in the right direction. And so then these are just a lighter gray, so I'm just going lighter with my pencil just to give it a little shading here. And then we have these darker blocks up here, and I just kind of, like, I'm barely even looking at the picture for these sections. I've looked at, you know, the general idea of how they fill in, and so that's pretty much all I'm using. It's just that general idea, and just going with that. So I'm not trying to make it look like, I'm not trying to get every little pixel of this image in place. You can, for sure. Like if that's what you want to do, if that's how, like there are some artists who do photorealism, the kind where you look at it and you like have absolutely no idea if it's a picture or not. And if you want to do art like that and you want to get to that level, then you'll want to make sure that you're putting things like every time you do a new piece, you want to try to get closer and closer to that level of detail. But we're not going for quite that. That would take a lot longer than this video. Now I just grabbed a brown pencil for some of these areas here. And so I noticed that some of them have like this little lacy sort of effect, I guess you might call it. So I did a few of those. And these ones kind of go in lines more than they do in the little blobs. So I'm just putting those in and then just kind of giving it a wash up here since there is a little bit more of that brown up here. And I'm going to see, I think this one will work, terracotta. So just gonna do these a little bit looser here. Okay. And I'll put a little bit of this brighter color. Like you can layer multiple colors of browns and multiple colors of oranges and things throughout. Get it starting with like the basic colors and then adding in little touches here and there as needed to just give it that extra dimension. Okay, so we're good there. So I'm gonna start filling in some brown chunks now. So we got like right around this eye here is some more brown. And once again, just looking at the feather patterns, making sure you're going in the right direction. And any brighter areas you can brighten up. This one's called terracotta, but you could use any kind of tan or orangey kind of color just to add in little bits, just to add in a little detail here and there. Okay, we're doing pretty good so far here. Let's see, need a little bit darker here. I didn't quite go all the way around the corner for this here. And then down into here, we're doing a little bit more of the darker to get some of these darker feathers down and below. And I'm just eyeballing these because once again, like, they don't have to be exact. You can add in multiple layers. You can notice that every owl, like every human, is a little unique, a little bit different. And so if it's not precise, that is okay. And right now I'm just doing these little layers in here and leaving a little bit of white space here and there for that extra color. Okay, let's see here. Got a couple more areas, and every time you look at this picture, you're going to see more details. I mean, there are always going to be more details that you can find, that you can add in. And I mean, if you were to, excuse me, whew. If you were to do this today and then come back to it again in like a year or something, you would find new details to work through. So there's always going to be more things that you can do. So it's definitely a process of accepting where you're at, accepting like when you know that it is done for now, or it's good enough. There is totally a good enough in this process. You definitely have to let go of the I need it to be perfect. And that can be a challenge, but it's a really good lesson in letting shit go and just learning to roll with it. And it's definitely been an amazing lesson in that for me. I know because I definitely, like, I've never been a type A, that's for sure, but no one would ever accuse me of being type A. But I'm definitely, like, I did not realize how much I was into the details until, like, I would be getting closer to the end of a project and be like, it's not done, it's still not done, it doesn't look right. and just like noticing how I would talk to myself at that time, like really gave me some insight into the fact that I really do like the details, and I really do also need to let go of the details. And so I just noticed here also, like, you can do this like sort of cross hatching pattern to get more texture into those feathers, and that'll give it a little extra fun detail there. And so what I would do from here is just, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my voice decided it was gonna be done for the day apparently. Like, if you leave it here, we're good. Like, you've got an owl, you're good. But you can also just like keep going back and adding in a few more details here and there. I wouldn't suggest doing too much more, just because you want to finish. You want to have it finished and like have that finished product. But I like to just add in, when I think something's done, I like to go back in and add some darker colors. Like what I just did here, all I did was like drag a few dark lines up there, and it gave it so much more depth and texture, right? So that's the kind of thing that when I think I'm done with a project, I like to go back in and just do a few more little areas like that, just to give it a little bit more depth. And it's that darks being super dark and lights being super bright that really gives it that depth. It really gives it that texture that this is a real thing, this is based on real life kind of vibe. So let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, so it's been like a half an hour, so even simplifying, I still go over time. So all right, so there is an owl. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you have your finished owl. So if you drew along with this, post a picture below. The replay will be up in about 24 hours over on the Academy page, and I'll share a picture in the group tomorrow too, for my final owl and pictures that you guys share. So I hope to see some owls in the group, and I will see you later this week. Bye.